and welcome to this week's episode of State of Real Estate. My name is Jon Carissimo. Thank you for joining us here live today, where we're talking about buyer commissions, essentially the future of real estate. What a crazy world that we live in. What a wild world that we live in today, where something that has been as sacred as the MLS Cooperative Commission can just poof and vanish in midair come July. Now, let's rewind. Let's back up a little bit and talk about what's really going on here. Is this the end of real estate? Absolutely not. Is the end of real estate agents? Definitely not. Is it the end of the MLS and the realtors? I wouldn't call it the end, but it is the end of the MLS as you know it. So for everyone tuning in today, welcome in. Whether you're watching, we're broadcasting like everywhere today. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram now. This is our first broadcast on Instagram. We finally got that going. So if you're tuning in on Instagram, let's pull it up here because I think I got to stay towards the middle of the screen for the Instagram feed there to line up just right. Oh yeah, there we go. So you can see a little bit. So if you want to actually see the full screen, the wide screen, go to tsre.us/live. If you're on YouTube, Facebook, wherever, if you want to watch it off of our main webpage, tsre.us/live. Let me go ahead and test that right here while we're on the air. Make sure that is going to the right place for today's. Yeah, buyer commissions, the future of real estate. So tsre.us/live. Pop that in your web browser. You'll be able to watch anywhere it is that you want. But anyways, this is big news. This is huge news for people that are doing real estate already. Now, if you're brand new to real estate, you're probably not going to know one way or the other what the difference is. And honestly, my take on this, there's details that I don't like about it, and how it came about, I also don't like that as well. But at the end of the day, what makes us great entrepreneurs is the ability to shift with the market, to be able to change and adapt as the market does, whether that's just gradual change in the market or dramatic change due to rule changes and so on and so forth that could cause these influences here. So the big focus is around buyers. Let's go to the board here and break down a couple of things of what this ultimately means. Like I said, if you're a new agent and you're tuning in today, this is going to be some great information, but don't let any of this scare you. Don't let any of this make you think that there's not a need for real estate agents or anything like that. What it is, ultimately at the end, the silver lining, the best thing to come out of this is going to be better buyer relationships with more transparency regarding the commission. And so, for those of us here in Florida, I'm sure most of us tuning in today, let me know in the chat where you're tuning in from, where you're watching from. Are you somewhere here in Florida? Are you outside of the state? We've had students from over 40 countries worldwide, so if you're in another country right now tuning in, let us know. I know the time zone things, but that's why we have the recordings available for all this as well. And look, one more quick plug here before we go into the details on this whole settlement here is every single week we do a coaching call. And you could sign up for this coaching call right on our website, a la carte. However, we're running a special promotion right now because everybody is really confused about what's going on, and we want to help our students get as much direction as possible. So if you register right now for a limited time, we're going to include 1 year, 365 days of Ask the Instructor coaching. So this is our weekly coaching calls that we do every single week, as well as access to the past recordings. So anything from as simple as continuing education, post-licensing, pre-licensing, broker pre-licensing, whatever you're signing up for, we want to help get you the guidance. And this is more just an instructor support. You could always call in and reach out to us for any content-related questions and so on and so forth. But this is more so a great opportunity to network, to be around and in the same environment with other like-minded entrepreneurs that are looking to advance their real estate careers. So we're doing that for a limited time only. Every single week, you'll get that free for a year with any registration, which is an unbelievable deal that we've got going on right now. And plus, we've also got promo code COACH. So promo code COACH is the big promo code going around right now. Not only will you get the 365 days of coaching, but you'll get a big discount at checkout. So use that promo code COACH if you're purchasing any courses, books, whatever it might be, to get a discount on that. But back to the news, back to the NAR, back to Burnett-Sitzer, back to the new MLS rules, because that's really the biggest things that are coming from what we're going to talk about today. So this all just came out Friday. So A few things I want to preface this with. Number one, this has just been a proposal. This has not yet been accepted by the courts. There's numbers of money and all kinds of other things that are associated with that, but what I'm going to focus on today is ultimately how this is changing the real estate industry. What this means for you as a real estate agent that's practicing. Now, if you've just been a listing agent, it's actually probably going to make your negotiations potentially a little bit easier because there's ultimately going to be less of a burden for a seller to be the one who ultimately is paying for the commission. Now, at the end of the day, really the buyer pays everybody's commissions because the buyer's paying the whole transactions and the commissions are built in. So it's a tomato-tomato argument, but at the end of the day, what it's going to do is it's going to split apart the commissions to where there can still be incentive offered by the seller. There still can be a cooperative commission that's offered by the seller. However, if there is, it cannot be published in the MLS. That's probably the most significant rule change so far. And for people who understand what that actually means and what the MLS is at a higher level, that's why a lot of people might be wondering, is this the beginning of the end of the MLS? And so, look, I don't want to take too long today because I know when we get long-winded on these here, we see in the comments, oh, this is too much, too many details. So I want to keep this to the point with actionable information with next steps. And, you know, one of the things I'll recommend that to you, we haven't turned this into an official course or anything yet, but we are doing workshops on the buyer brokerage agreement. So if you want to find one of those workshops on the buyer brokerage agreement, we've got you covered with that here. But let's get more into what this is. So it was an antitrust lawsuit without getting into too many details of that. And ultimately, there's a settlement proposal that proposes a couple of MLS rule changes. And so, for any of you that are members of Stellar MLS, I'm a member of Stellar MLS for pretty much everyone in Tampa, Orlando, Lakeland, Sarasota, pretty much the whole middle of Florida is under Stellar MLS. You probably already received an email. Now, whether or not you've read that email is a different story, but it just came out last week. I'm sure it's in your email inbox where you can see these exact rules coming directly from the MLS, that this is the proposal that is going into effect in July, should this be accepted. So the biggest, most significant change is in the MLS is no publishing of cooperating commission. No publishing of cooperating commission. So that's really the thing that most new agents join the MLS for. It's almost like you're paying to join this club, if you want to call it that, association. You're buying into this database where the one thing that this database basically has a monopoly on is being the database for realtors for pre-negotiated buyer commissions that are going to be paid by the seller. And so the argument essentially is that when the seller has already agreed to pay X percentage of commission, that it therefore inflates the cost of the property, because essentially they just charge more money to be able to pay the commission. But at the end of the day, you sell the property for what the market is. So we're not here to pick apart this argument. We're not here. I'm not an attorney. It makes me wonder what actually went down in that courtroom when this whole case here and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, those details don't matter to us. What does matter to us is how do we use these new rules, this new market essentially that we found ourselves in, this new way of doing business, and really how do you get ahead of this? How do you leverage this to be able to make more money than you ever have before? And so, to give you some personal background of my own, I'm a broker with multiple licenses. So yes, I'm a real estate instructor. I'm the director here at the Tampa School of Real Estate, but I also hold broker licenses, multiple broker licenses for multiple separate brokerages. One of our primary brokerages designed for new agents, designed for It's called Epic Realty Group. And then the best way I can explain it is that we're there to be epic, to be the best there is. And one of the things that we believe in is the relationship. Now let's think about the seller relationship. Let's think about when you're working with a seller, what that would look like. So as a listing agent, so with a seller, they would hire a listing agent. From your perspective, you're trying to get interviews essentially with a seller. And you might be saying, interviews, do you mean they may be interviewing multiple listing agents? Yes, they may be. That might not always be the case. But if somebody does want to shop around, they can interview multiple listing agents, and that listing agent is going to make some form of a presentation. And, you know, I've seen anything from like bound booklets to PowerPoints to just showing up and winging it, and everything in between all of that right there, to make some sort of presentation to get an agreement, aka a contract, to get some sort of agreement or contract that essentially employs and compensates. So if you're brand new to real estate, I'll run over this one more time here. A listing agent works with the seller. They go to the seller, make a presentation, ask them to sign this contract or agreement that employs them and compensates them. But typically, or up until this point, basically, really up until July, and this could even go on after July, absolutely. So this doesn't put an end to splitting commissions, cooperative commissions, that whole thing. It just puts an end to that information being available publicly, or not even publicly, semi-publicly, to the realtors in the MLS. And that's really the foundation of the MLS. That's what the MLS was built upon, was a database to say, hey, there's already this pre-negotiated commission. The seller will pay this credit. Now, to show one other example of this, let's go outside the MLS and think of a for sale by owner. Now, if you're a real estate agent, this is one source of leads, is for sale by owners. I want to talk about them today a little bit as well. So it's always been possible to buy or sell your home as a for sale by owner. And that means you have no representation. There's no law, there's no rule, there's no anything that requires you to have representation. Just like, let's say you get found guilty of some crime. Do you need an attorney? No. Now, it's highly recommended that you have an attorney, so much so that there's even public defenders if you can't afford a private attorney, but you can also elect for no representation. Now, there's no such thing as a public real estate agent. So you could choose to be represented or not represented. And can you sell a house on your own? Absolutely. Can you buy a house on your own? Absolutely. But will it be easier with a real estate professional? I could pretty much assure that. Will you make more money with a real estate professional? Almost always. We actually have a for sale by owner training. And one of the key statistics from that training, this is available from the Association of Realtors, and that's one of the things the Association of Realtors is good for, is collecting the stats and data that can help empower you as a professional. And one of those statistics is that working with a realtor, a for sale by owner, typically earns anywhere from 10 to 30% more, depending on a few different factors. But let's go on the low end, and let's just say 10. Let's not go high and say 30% more, because that's very clear you're making way more money as the seller. But let's say you're just making 10% more. You're making 10% more. Well, if you're paying a 5, 6, 7% commission, isn't 10% still better than 6, 7, 8% commission? You could probably even charge a 9% commission. And if they're still making more, if the bottom line is still higher, why not? But here's the thing, the perception is the reality. And that's a big part of what this case is right now. There's all kinds of misinformation headlines. It's so funny. Google this. Google 6% commission. Go ahead and Google 6% commission, and you'll see all these headlines coming up, almost like it's some like sort of, they're just copying and pasting across all these different news articles, end to 6% commissions. No, there's nothing that ends a 6% commission. There's nothing that ends a 5% commission. There's nothing that ends a 9% commission. There's nothing in this settlement that ends any percentage of commission. The key thing that changes is that these offers of compensation cannot be included in the MLS. So back to the for sale by owners, a for sale by owner won't be in the MLS. That's one of the downfalls of doing this on your own. But you know what's existed for maybe 20, 30 years? At least 20 years, maybe even longer than that. One of our own instructors here, I know, also is a broker with multiple broker licenses, and this is one of her. She does a great job with this brokerage, and it's a flat fee brokerage. Now, you might wonder, what is a flat fee brokerage? So this for sale by owner could pay a couple $100s to list their property in the MLS, as well as maybe some other things. Maybe there's a la carte with some additional services and so on and so forth. So you have other options than just being completely unrepresented. But let's talk about this for sale by owner, because part of what I did when I started my real estate career, and what a lot of new agents do, is they prospect or call or maybe knock on the door of a for sale by owner. Why? Because they're selling. They want to sell. We could help them sell. As a matter of fact, we could help them sell so much on average, we're going to help you make more money any way we do this here. Unless I charge you a 10% commission, that's when we're starting to get borderline territory of whether or not I make you money or not. But even if we had a 10% commission and you made 30% more, you're still 20% ahead. Does that math make sense? But a 10% commission, especially with a for sale by owner, is a ridiculous conversation. And not ridiculous in the sense that that's too high for anyone to pay or ever accept, but because a for sale by owner, they might say something, they got these lines. Yeah, you know, if you bring me a buyer, I'll pay you 1%, I'll pay you 2%. I don't think I've ever talked to a for sale by owner in my game. I've talked to a lot of for sale by owners, because this, like I said, one of the primary ways that I prospected to find business, and this is still something that I recommend to agents every single day, because it's a great source. Because just like buyers are ill-equipped to be able to do this on their own, sellers are ill-equipped to be able to do this on their own. That doesn't mean they can't do it. It's just, how many of you guys are handy? Guys, girls, whatever you are. I say guys, you guys a lot. I'm working on that. I've been criticized that before. I've seen the comments. Let me know if there's anything else you don't like about me, and I'll work on it. But anyways, how many of you are handy? How many of you can build something? Maybe do it yourself. I'd like to think I'm pretty handy. I've done a lot of things. I used to run around at like 3 or 4 years old with a power drill. But I'll tell you what, you get a skilled person who does this as a career for their living, for that specific thing that you need built, they're always going to do it better than you, your do-it-yourself thing. And so we could make this whole argument about whether or not it makes, but the question isn't whether or not realtors are still relevant. Hopefully you're staying with me on this here and you understand, yes, realtors are still relevant. Of course, people they can do this themselves, no more, no less. Now, it's in headlines, and this is something that people might have heard about. Maybe not, though, because a lot of people this is news for realtors, big, huge news for realtors, but for the general public, it's already kind of falling behind with all the other news in the news cycle and the 24-hour news cycles. So for sale by owners can still offer commission. Whatever it is, they could offer 1%, 2%, 3%, whatever they may do. You could still go after them. Nothing changes in that sense. And that's why I want to show them as an example, is because this is basically what's out there. But what does change is if you're working with a buyer. So let's get to the meat of what this means for buyer relationships. So this has been my #1 pet peeve. And again, going back to Epic Realty Group, this is the #1, I don't know what to call it, soapbox, or #1 thing it is that I was really setting out to show that there's a better way to work with buyers. Because here is how the traditional, typical agent in this day and age works with a buyer. And this buyer's agents that work this way are the ones that are ultimately giving real estate agents a bad name. Now, in many states, Florida included, you do not need to have anything signed to work with a buyer. And so what that means is you could get a lead, whether this is a friend, a family member, a co-worker, some random person you met somewhere and you struck up a conversation with and somehow they became a lead. You could be buying these leads online. You could be sending mail for leads. You could be doing all these different things to get leads. But one of the most popular ways, especially for new agents, because there's telemarketers that work for these companies that reach out to new agents because they know you don't know any better. Companies like Zillow, Realtor.com, Homes.com, all these different websites that are home search portals. Because what they do, and this is why, if you check Zillow stock, it went boom. It had a pretty significant drop with this here because that model is going to be very obsolete very quickly. Because the model of, like, say if you're buying these leads off of Zillow, if you guys have Zillow contracts, my recommendation is to get rid of them. There's far better ways to get leads. And if you want more help on leads specifically, again, register for any course in our catalog. We're including the 365 days of Ask the Instructor coaching calls at no charge. So anything you sign up for, because if you want to ask any questions about marketing, that is, I went to school for marketing. And that, now granted, I've learned so much more using these concepts in the real world, but there's so many ways that you could generate your own business without having to rely on these third-party portals. But let's go back to it, because a lot of agents do. And if you are, these are not going to be the quality leads that you want in this new type of business where you need to have buyer brokerage agreements. Now, it can still work, absolutely. But those leads are going to become even more expensive because of the whole supply and demand economics of it. If you look, Zillow is already spending money on Google ads. So they're paying money to get the same people on their website that they're ultimately turning around and paying you. And so that causes costs to rise because overall Google advertising costs have gone up significantly as well. But in the model of pay per lead, especially when that's based off of houses, and this to a certain degree can also apply when they're trying to book an appointment with a house on your website, but it's light years better when it's on your own website, because your own website has your own branding, your own brokerage, your own face, your own name, your own contact info. There's no other agents that are advertising on it. And so what that does is that creates much more of the relationship that we're ultimately going to be after with buyers to be able to secure compensation for ourselves when we're working with buyers. Because if you're getting a lead off of Zillow of somebody that wants to go see 123 Main Street, so they want to go check out 123 Main Street, and your phone rings and, oh, Zillow, you got a lead, 123 Main Street, can you do it this Saturday? And you're like, oh my God, a lead, yes, of course, I got to be ready for leads. And so you go show them the house, 123 Main Street on Saturday. You hope this is the one. Maybe even did a little extra homework and you're like, well, there's this other house down the street I could show you. You might like that one. And they're like, okay. But then they just don't call you back. They don't ever talk to you again because maybe they went on another website or they went back on Zillow or they somehow got in touch with another agent for another property. And this is really why we're in this environment, I believe, of where there is a lawsuit ultimately determining this here, is because there's so many agents that operate in this way. And it really just, it irks me because not only, again, is this part of my personal passion behind having a brokerage. I don't need to have a brokerage, but I like to have skin in the game. I like to have a seat at the table. I don't want to just be from the real estate school talking about what's going on from the outside. And that's why I'm a broker myself. And again, one of the passion projects I had, and from day one, we've used something called buyer brokerage relationships. Through a buyer brokerage agreement. And if you weren't using this already, you should have been. So we started Epic Realty Group back in 2019, and we didn't invent buyer brokerage agreements. As a matter of fact, the current version of the Florida Realtor buyer brokerage agreement is from 2016. So they didn't even update this form that often because people don't use it. Because people will get these leads one way or another, and they think of themselves just as a gatekeeper to a house. If all you are is a gatekeeper to a house, you could be replaced with a Yale smart lock. That's all they need. That's all a for sale by owner needs to be able to control the access to their property is a Yale smart lock. That's probably just as unhackable, if not more unhackable, than those realtor boxes. Now, I might see people in the comments later, some technician from Supra that's like, that's not true. We're actually way more secure. Okay, good deal. But the regular average consumer doesn't care. I mean, there might be people out there that are still using those old-fashioned, like, little $20 lock boxes at Home Depot where you, like, punch in the numbers. And on the listing side of things, one of the things that I predict long-term is going to change, not quite so much right away, but long-term, especially for people that are practicing here in Florida, is that the big long-term change you're going to see for listing agents is that you're going to find that you'll probably have to do more than just put the property in the MLS to get it sold, which is yet another one of the passions that we teach at Epic. That again was one of the things that was why, if I'm going to be a broker, I want to help reinvent the game. And that's why we didn't buy into a franchise or anything like that. And for anybody getting their broker license, should you buy into a franchise? I don't think so. Because especially in times like these, where there's changes, you could change like that if you're at a small, nimble brokerage. If you're at one of these mega brokerages, one of these brokerages that was actually included in this lawsuit, I mean, yeah, they might have some sort of plan to save the company or whatever it is, but you should be more worried about your company, your business, than the brokerage it is that you're a part of. And that's how most brokerages are set up. But you get into these larger organizations and there can be a lot of bulkiness, a lot of things that don't flow as smoothly. That's my personal take. There's a lot of people that do really well at these large brokerages, so there's a different brokerage for everyone. But overall, if you're feeling what I'm talking about already, don't just write it off. I trust your gut and try something else. If it really is that bad, you could always come back to whatever brokerage it is that you join. And yes, they have all these rules and stuff of whatever recruiting systems or whatever it is they have to keep you from wanting to change brokerages. But at the end of the day, I've changed multiple brokerages. And every time I've done it, up until starting my own brokerages, it's always ended up getting better and better and better, because you learn more, you become more experienced, you know more, and you can make better decisions. So I'm gonna look at the chat here as well. Now, in case you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, because I do want to see if anybody has any questions about anything that I talked about. I know I've dropped so much information so quickly in like this first like half hour or so we've been going here. So if you do want to participate in the chat, go to this link. I'm gonna write it in the center here so Instagram can see it. tsre.us/live, tsre.us/live. That will take you to the official live broadcast where you'll be able to click a little chat bubble on the video and you could ask any questions that you have. You could share any insight you have on this. There's a lot of information coming out very quickly with this, so we're going to do follow-ups to this, of course. Like I said, this hasn't even been accepted yet. But ultimately, if this does get accepted, these changes go into effect in July. So tsre.us/live, you can join the chat. Let's take a look over here. See if we got any questions. Otherwise, I could answer. Downtown Tampa, Florida. Yeah, welcome in, everybody. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Let me know what questions you have. Hopefully this is helping you understand better what's been going on, make sense of all the chaotic headlines. But let's get back into this here, because I do want to try to get through some of the main things you need to know before we wrap up today. And the main thing really you need to know about is the buyer brokerage agreement. Now, I mentioned earlier that we actually are doing workshops on these buyer brokerage agreements. So if you want to take one of our workshops on the buyer brokerage agreement and become confident in actually using this, because what this buyer brokerage agreement actually does is it creates a buyer relationship. It creates a buyer relationship. And it ultimately employs you, employs the agent. And why I've been a huge proponent, and like I said, it's been a passion project for me about using buyer brokerage agreements, and now look, all of a sudden the industry is about to make these standard. How crazy is that? It feels good to be ahead. But the reason why, and the reason why a lot of realtors get a bad reputation is because they have a bad relationship with their agent. And this is one of the top things it is that we teach, is building a strong relationship. You do this through intelligent marketing, intelligent communication and prospecting with the right timing, But the one thing overall is that it's persistent, that it goes on perpetually forever. Because every contact you have in your sphere of influence is potential future business. The more contacts you have, the more business you can do, whether they're buyers or sellers. Because what you'll be doing with buyers is ultimately having what we call a buyer consultation. A buyer consultation. And a buyer consultation is going to be very similar, for those of you that have already been practicing real estate, to the listing agent listing appointment. So if you've been on a listing appointment before, maybe you've never done a buyer brokerage agreement before. Okay, let's set that aside. Again, we've got workshops coming up. If you want to find out more about those, reach out to us. Our phone number is 813-333-2676. We'd love to help you navigate through this and help make your business stronger than ever. Because that's what this has the ability to do. Because if you have not been using buyer brokerage agreements, this seems like a big change to you. If you have been, you're like, okay, yeah, we just kind of keep doing what we're doing here. Maybe there's a few little changes here. Maybe we do have to have more of a conversation about that money being paid off the buyer's side versus just off the seller's side. But at the end of the day, all the money, all the fees, all the closing costs are paid for by the buyer, because it's the buyer paying the money at closing. The seller's not bringing any money to the closing table. Almost always, the seller's never bringing money to the closing table. It's very rare that the seller ever has to bring money to the closing table. That's more of a short sale situation. If you've ever heard of that term short sale, maybe you're not too familiar with what that is. That would be where the seller is in a situation where they owe more money than what the house is worth. And so if they were to sell it, they'd actually have to pay to sell it. That's called a short sale. Now, back to normal market conditions, which even right now, what we're in, it seems like a crazy market. Interest rates are still high. There's not a significant amount of home sales compared to like 2 years ago, but it is still actually considered a normal-ish market. Not super, things are still happening, at least here in Florida. I can't speak to the rest of the country, but we still got an influx of people moving to Florida for various reasons. And that's continuing to drive our economy. That's continuing to drive all of our businesses here. That's continuing to drive the real estate market. So now when a listing agent will go to a seller, can they still have the seller pay a cooperating commission? Absolutely. But is there less incentive to do that because you can't advertise it as freely in the MLS? Yes. But so far, there has not been anything talking about anything outside of the MLS. That's really all the realtors in the MLS can say is about the Realtor Association in the MLS. They don't necessarily control what their individual members do. We're all independent contractors. Even if you're at a specific brokerage, you're typically still a 1099 independent contractor, which gives you a lot of freedom that makes you your own independent business. And so you can still, so let's talk about builders. Let me put them up here as an example. Just like we use for sale by owners as an example, let's talk about builders. If you want to join us live, tsre.us/live. You can watch widescreen. Because you probably can't even see me right now if you're watching on Instagram because I'm tucked away in the corner. But let's say you're working with a builder. Let's put this in the middle so Instagram could read it too. So you're working with a builder. Now, what does that mean to work with a builder? I didn't say work for a builder, although that is an option. You could work for a builder, and that means you hang your real estate license with the builder, and that's one of the few roles in real estate where you're actually a W-2 employee typically, rather than a 1099 independent contractor. And so that carries a lot more of the same types of specifications and parameters that a job would in terms of having a job, having to be places, having quotas, and so on and so forth. Whereas as a 1099 independent contractor, by definition, you're your own business. And yes, there may be some rules and whatnot you have to follow according to the FRAC, according to your broker. But how much you work, what your quota actually is, so on and so forth, what your schedule, whether or not you work at all, that's up to you as the contractor. So there's a way to work with builders, but still as a contractor. It's where rather than hanging your license with the builder, where you could solely sell just for that builder, because if your license is hung with a builder, you could only sell for that builder. You could still sell builder properties when your license is hung with a brokerage. And as a matter of fact, builders usually offer very incentivized commissions. Now, you might argue that the builder doesn't have listing agents. There are some new construction, new builds that you'll find in the MLS. But here's something that we've also taught, is that when you're working with builders, most of the properties are not in the MLS. Now, why are most builders not putting their property in the MLS? Well, that costs something, one way or another. It cost hiring a listing agent. It cost hiring a flat fee brokerage. It cost creating your own brokerage entity. And then it also costs time to create those duplicate listings in the MLS when that builder probably already has their own website to market their properties. So there's a lot of builders that don't have their properties available, or at least the current inventory, because that's the other thing. The builders turn over so many properties, that extra work of having to put in the MLS. You know, if you have not worked with builders much already, or not worked with builders outside of what you found in the MLS, you're missing out on a world of opportunities, because there's so many really nice new construction homes. Now, your market, there might not be a lot of new construction. It might be just little things here and there. Like, for example, like if you're in the South Tampa area, downtown Tampa, I know we had somebody tuning in from today here, and we're going to take a look at the chat in just a moment here. If you want to join that chat, tsre.us/live, tsre.us/live. But one other thing, for also referencing other areas, places like New York City, they don't even have an MLS. New York, I've recently learned that. I just assumed everywhere there was an MLS because everywhere there's realtors and whatnot. But no, there's not enough people as part of any one association of realtors. There's not really an MLS. And so what happens then is listing agents, because they're not, and that's the thing that, you know, as a listing agent, it's almost a guaranteed sale through the MLS. Will that be the case in the future? I think not having compensation there. Now, granted, buyers, agents have to do it. It's going to have effects. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't have all the answers of exactly what the repercussions of every little ripple effect will be. We'll have all kinds of little butterfly effects of little things that end up arising out of this. You know, one of those might be if you've been thinking about getting a license and you're like, I don't know if I could pay for the boards and the MLS and all these other fees and whatnot. Good news. If you're using a buyer brokerage agreement, which is the new standard come July, given the acceptance of this proposal, if this gets accepted, new standard in July is that you have a buyer relationship that is formalized by a buyer brokerage agreement, where you're having a buyer consultation, where you're working with a buyer, meeting with a buyer, and going through almost like a listing appointment like you would with a seller. But you're going over what value you provide, what it is that you do, what are the steps, what is the framework, what does this look like? Just like you're proving your value in the listing appointment to your seller, you're doing some version of that for the buyer as it relates to buying. And then you're being employed, and also, this is the big important part here, compensated. Compensated. So what that buyer brokerage agreement does is, rather than the listing agent and the selling agent having to secure both sides of the commission, the buyer's agent is going to secure their own commission from the buyer. Now, you might say this could be really bad for first-time home buyers, and if a first-time home buyer has to pay an entire commission on top of that and it can't be financed into the loan or anything like that, I'm with you on this. I think that's ultimately who's going to be affected the most out of this here is first-time home buyers. But at the same time, the first-time home buyers are ultimately who needs that guidance the most. And so it does kind of raise that barrier a little bit in that sense. But also at the same time, if prices do come down, because that's the big thing behind this. They're like, oh, well, prices are going to come down because 6% commissions are over. Now, like I mentioned earlier, there's nothing anywhere saying that any percentage of commission or any sort of dollar amount is not allowed or prohibited. That would be a pretty extreme reach, in my opinion, of the government's authority of telling us how much money that we're able to charge for our services here. Kind of anti-capitalistic, but we're not going to have that argument here. We're just talking about the situation we're given and how we're going to be able to work the best with it, because that's what we do as entrepreneurs. We figure out creative solutions to difficult problems. And we could figure out the solutions that solve those problems. We could be compensated. And especially if it's a really difficult problem, that's where the compensation ends up being higher. That's where the reward is usually greater, because we're able to pull something off that people didn't think were possible. And so that's what we're ultimately now having to prove as buyer's agents. We have to prove our worth. We have to negotiate our worth and ultimately have this agreement of the compensation. Now, at the end of the day, this doesn't mean that the buyer's holding the bag for this entire commission, because if there's already a pre-negotiated cooperating commission, meaning the seller has already agreed to pay a credit. And like I said, you might say, well, will sellers be willing to do that? Well, for sale by owners will do it. With a buyer brokerage agreement, let's say you had a buyer brokerage agreement. Let's do an example here. We'll keep it on this FSBO screen, because we'll use this as a FSBO buyer brokerage agreement. And this could go on today, whether or not any of these rules change. This has been something that would allow you to earn a commission in a for sale by owner since basically the beginning of buyer brokerage agreements. So nothing new here at all. And like I said, there's many brokerages that have already been using buyer brokerage agreements. Like I said, I've been very passionate about these from the start of my own brokerages, because this ultimately, again, creates a much better relationship that is not only easier to work with the client, but again, it's more transparent. You have better communication. There's nothing that they're, afraid to ask, because the big question people are always afraid to ask is how much it costs. It's taboo to talk about money. I hate it when people don't want to talk about money. I love talking about money. Money is what rules this world, whether you like it or not. You could not like it, that's fine. But don't deny the fact that money is ultimately the guiding force behind almost everything on this planet. To a certain degree, at least. Maybe not every. The natural forces, of course. I'm not talking about natural forces. I'm talking about human forces. As humans everywhere. Money is driving one way or the other. And if you think it doesn't, put enough money against them and watch how much it still does. So we're not here, again, to have an existential crisis about the world that we live in and the money. We're just here to make some of this money. But that money does flow freely. If you're positive about it and you can attract it as not just some little spiritual BS, you have to believe in your ability to earn this. You have to believe in your ability to get a buyer to sign off on a 3% buyer brokerage agreement. And so then you go to this for sale by owner. Now you call the for sale by owner in advance and you say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. for sale by owner, we have a buyer who is interested in this property. If I bring them by, would you be willing to pay a buyer's agent commission? No listing commission. No, we're not changing. I'm not calling you to list your property. I know you're probably getting a lot of calls from a lot of real estate agents trying to list the property and then try to get a buyer. No, I actually have a buyer right now who's potentially interested in the property. And I'd like to see if, given the price that you're asking, if you'd be willing to pay, say, a 2% commission. Now, you might say, John, well, if they're only paying 2%, what does that mean? Let's say the seller, the for sale by owner, says, yeah, I'm willing to pay a 2% buyer commission if they give me full price. Now, we could have that discussion with our buyer. And this is where part of the negative sentiment behind this whole thing comes from, is almost like the buyer's not being part of this discussion as it relates to the commission. Because as I mentioned earlier, at the end of the day, the buyer's paying for everything. How do I know that? Well, because nothing's getting paid for before the closing. Nothing's getting paid for. Maybe there's a couple, what the seller's paying some costs to list the property maybe, But usually not even, because a listing agent, they hire a listing agent and they're going to have the commission on the back end, but usually the listing agent's paying a lot of these upfront fees. So whatever closing costs, whatever, and yes, you might say, well, it's on the seller side of the closing disclosure. Yes, but who is the only person bringing the money to the closing? That's the buyer. The buyer pays for everything. And so what this does is this now allows the buyer to a certain degree to be part of that conversation of what percentage of the commission is going to be representative for the services with the buyer's agent. And so if you could negotiate a 3% commission with your buyer, whoever the seller is, well, whether it's a listing in the MLS, whether it's a for sale by owner, it could be a builder, it could be anyone. And again, let's say, I'm going to rewrite this here because my 2 looks pretty sloppy. I've read those comments before as well, that my handwriting is terrible, and I apologize for that. I promise I'm working on it. I do a lot of writing almost every single day. It's not getting much better, but I'm trying. So buyer agrees 3%. Seller says they'll credit 2%. That means that the buyer's left with 1%. Not too bad. Extra money, of course, but this would already be the case, again, even without this whole Burnett-Sitzer ruling. This pretty much just existed, though, in the for sale by owner world, in the builder world, and outside of the properties in the MLS, because that's the way a lot of agents see this as, is like, okay, I've got the MLS, the clients don't have the MLS, I've got the super key, the clients don't have the super key, so they need me for the MLS and for the super key, and so they call me, I could show them the house, hopefully they want to buy it. If not, I'll just pay Zillow more money so they send me more leads so I could get another person and show them a house, and hopefully one of these people will want to buy it. Wrong. That's the wrong way to do real estate. It was something that I tried, and I tried the pay-per-lead type of service. When I was getting started in real estate, there were home websites available, and there were services that sold these leads to the people that wanted to see these homes from these third-party websites that weren't brokers. They were just syndicating this property data. And so I would buy these leads, and I felt those same pains that, oh, they just want to go look at this house, then they're back on their website, and this website would just sell them that lead and sell that same person to a new agent every time they went back on the website. That was much more primitive. The websites are more advanced today because they're trying to overcome these objections of the real estate agents, but at the end of the day, it's your most expensive and lowest return on investment way. You can still make great money, don't get me wrong, but it's your lowest return on investment way to generate leads. And especially with this now going on, with you having to get buyer brokerage agreements, it's no longer, hey, let's go take a look at the property. It's, hey, because of recent federal court case rulings, we have to have a short consultation. I'm going to go over the services it is that I provide and ultimately what it will cost you, because I believe in transparency up front. You know, all the agents at my brokerage can say, you know, we've been doing this since our brokerage was founded, because we believed in that transparency. We believed in the relationship. But there's a lot of agents that, and it's not necessarily even that they're bad actors and that they're trying to harm people. It's just that they don't know any better. They don't know any better, because that's yet another one of my passion projects behind me wanting to have my own brokerage licenses, is making sure that especially new agents, that they have the information that they need to build a successful real estate career. You know, you take your pre-licensing course with us to get your license. There's a lot of information in there. You learn so much information, but it's a lot of laws and rules for the exam. And then we tell you to take post-licensing, or you take post-licensing right away after you get your real estate license. You learn a lot more about the real-world side of real estate, but then there's still so much more to know. There's still so much more to build. There's so many possibilities of what you can do. It's really important that you have good guidance and training and coaching that helps you build the career it is that you're ultimately after. Because that's the number one problem that most agents are facing, is that there's a lot of things that they're doing wrong, and it's because they're operating off of bad information. If you haven't been using buyer relationships, buyer brokerage agreements to secure your buyer relationships, chances are you've been operating off of bad information. You might say, well, that's how everyone else at my brokerage does it. Exactly. And that's part of the reason why there's so many realtors out there that are giving real estate agents a bad name. Because, and yes, the realtors, they have these whole ethical standards, code of ethics trainings you have to do, and anti-discrimination trainings and so on and so forth, but they're really not focused on training you to be a professional in the terms of a productive real estate agent. Because the more business that you do, the better you'll be able to serve your clients, buyers or sellers. I promise you, you get through one of these buyer brokerage agreements, they're going to get simpler and easier every time you present them, because you're going to build your confidence in them. You're going to be able to justify the value that you're providing in exchange for that compensation that at the end of the deal might not even being 100% paid by you, because likely we could still have at least some percentage from the seller. If it's not pre-negotiated, we could probably negotiate that as part of the offer if we're coming in with a strong offer. But gone are the days of, oh yeah, let's go show you a house and we'll worry about how much I get paid later. That's not professional whatsoever. That's how an amateur does real estate. Of, hey, let's go look at houses and see what money we're going to make based on what house I sell you. This allows you to secure your compensation, and the only way that's going to matter is if there's some place that'll offer even more money than whatever you agreed to in your buyer brokerage agreement. And then you could have that discussion. It's like, yeah, I'd love if you'd buy this place right here because they even offer a higher commission. So you'll have to pay no commission, and I'll even get a bonus because we only agreed to 3%, and this builder is offering 4%. Have builders done that? I've seen builders offer as high as 5 and 6%. Just to a buy side. Now, sometimes you have to sell a couple properties before you have to like level up with tiers. They've got all kinds of little tricks and whatnot. But they still always pay you something. Even if that builder's only paying 2%, whether it's a for-sale by owner, whether it's a builder, whether it's a property that's in the MLS. But again, the difference is now that they won't be able to publish that the seller's willing to pay that buyer's agent commission in there. So let's head to the chat. Let me know what you think about this. Let me know if you have any questions on what we've talked about today here. I know we've got people tuning in from all different places on here. Currently in class, awesome. Probably your lunch break now, so that's okay. Tuning in from South Tampa. Do you think we'll lose a lot of agents? And we lose agents all the time. This will just be another scapegoat that a lot of agents will use as the reason why they're no longer in real estate. Oh, why'd you quit real estate? Oh, that stupid NAR settlement, it was all going downhill, so I got out of it. Yeah, you could say that. And if you find something better that makes you happier, because it sounds like you're pretty unhappy with real estate if that's the way you talk about it there. So best of luck to those of you that go out there. But what it will do is it'll create a much higher professional standard. This single thing that the Association of Realtors has done right here is the single thing they've done to be able to create a higher professional standard than anything else, because now you have to earn your commission with your buyers. Not just have it in the MLS and basically be guaranteed a commission as long as they buy something with a commission. You have to earn your commission. You have to negotiate it. And you have to be valuable to them, which is what you should have been doing from the start if you haven't been, because that's how you build a great business that makes them want to refer you other people. You say, oh yeah, you gotta go to John. You gotta talk to John. He's super involved. He's super knowledgeable. He's got great connections. He's very professional. He's not just some part-time amateur agent. He does this. And look, even if you are a part-time agent, that doesn't mean you're an amateur. But you can't act like a part-time agent. You can't, just like people shouldn't use this as the excuse as to why they drop out of real estate, people also shouldn't use the excuse of, oh, I'm a part-time agent is the reason why you're not serving the clients to the level that you should be here. Agents with the new role, you think a lot of agents in the role? Yeah, so I do think that agents will use this to drop out of it, but I think it's agents that probably already were going to drop out of it. If you've been in real estate, you've noticed there's a lot of people that don't stick around in this, and that's okay. This doesn't have to be your lifelong profession. Think of all the jobs you might have had in your past. And, and yes, there is investment to get into this here. So at the end of the day, hopefully you're getting at least a couple deals done to be able to recoup your investment. But even if you didn't sell anything, the knowledge and experience that you're gaining, and this isn't just me talking smoke. I've had people tell me this here, just from taking the class alone, let alone doing anything beyond that there, but just taking the class. We've had people sign up for our pre-licensing class to get a real estate license with no intentions of getting a real estate license. And I always wonder why, but they're curious people. They want to learn more about real estate, and maybe they're already involved in real estate somehow, some way. And whether they want to or not in the class, they still have the credit for 2 years to be able to go take that state exam. So there's all kinds of things to learn. But if you want, the thing that upsets me the most is the people that do want real estate to be their lifelong career, but because they've operated on bad information, that they're not able to stick with it. And that's why I'm on all these different channels and platforms today, to share this information. And we're here every single Friday, 12 noon Eastern time. That's why we do the coaching calls. Like I said, anything in the TSRE catalog, anything, TampaSchoolRealEstate.com in the catalog, you buy anything from continuing education, post-licensing, broker, pre-licensing, anything, we'll give you 1 year of Ask the Instructor coaching. It's our private coaching calls. We do these once a week. It's a great way to network with other agents. It's a great way to get your questions answered. And look, if you ever ask me a question that I can't speak to, I have an immense network of attorneys, of lenders, of title companies, of all kinds of people it is I could reach out to. So there's pretty much no question that goes unanswered on Ask the Instructor one way or the other. So every week, full year, anything you sign up for, we'll include that for free right now. We're doing that for a limited time. It's basically until we get to the capacity on that, which might be within the next day or so. So if you are thinking about signing up for anything, we also have promo code COACH. It'll save you a huge discount at checkout. So just make sure you type in the promo code field at checkout, the promo code COACH, and that'll get you an extra discount on your registration there. But if you feel like you're an agent that feels like you can't figure this out, those are who I'm talking to right now of sign up for something, get your continuing education done or whatever, so that way you could get into this 1 year of coaching, and so that way we could help keep your career on track one way or the other, help you navigate these changes it is that are coming out, or whatever it is that we could help you out with here. Let's see, Minnesota, with the Dean of Realty, we've always used yeah, so exactly, there's a lot of states that have a requirement. So Florida, like a lot of states, it's split. I don't know the exact statistics, but it's fairly split. But Florida is one of several states where there's an assumed relationship, meaning that it is legal for you to go out there and just start showing people properties. And ultimately, because of the way the laws are set up here in Florida, that is kind of designed to where it's going to protect the buyers to a certain degree from being taken advantage of. Even in this new ruling, nothing's changing with the single agency transaction broker and all that other stuff that we have here in Florida, because the moment you start working with somebody, you're doing so as a transaction broker relationship. And again, that ultimately provides some protections because it automatically grants some duties to the buyer. And so that ultimately is a good thing that we have that, but at the end of the day, it's been misused in the sense that people are just completely bypassing having any sort of consultation, having any sort of talk with their buyer about, you know, what are their goals, what are the priorities, what are we looking for, what do they like about their current property, what do they don't like, what's their 5-year plan, how can I be the best agent for you, what's the best way for me to communicate with you. I want to be upfront with you and honest upfront. Anything you have to tell me, don't worry about whatever it is. The best way that I could serve you is if we have full transparency, full communication. You have such a platform to be able to get this all out in that consultation. And then you secure it and tie it all up with a bow with a buyer brokerage agreement, which also secures what the commission is. So you're not, again, having to wonder or potentially steer, because that was the whole antitrust part of this lawsuit there, that you could steer people to different properties based on what commission is being offered. Which, do we really have that much sway over our clients? I highly doubt that. But that's where me and the courts disagree. But at the end of the day, we're not here to talk about how that case could have went or anything. We're entrepreneurs trying to make the best of this information so we could use it to get ahead of everyone else, to get, not just get ahead of the agents that are throwing in the towel. They're like, oh, they're changing something else on me. That's it. It's over. I can't take any more change. Change is ultimately what creates so many opportunities. So I'm somebody that is naturally excited by change, but then every time I see changes, because change usually works out, because I make it work out, I change myself to change with the change. And I know that might be difficult. It was a lot more difficult for me in the past. So the more you could do that, the more you could adapt and shift. And that's why I spoke earlier about, again, being with a nimble brokerage, being with somebody who's on top of that. If your broker has already had communications with you about what's going on here, fantastic. If this is the first time you're hearing about this, that's maybe where, what are you really getting from your broker? Why isn't your broker communicating this information? Maybe you just missed the email. Who knows? But definitely make sure you're with a good broker that's going to help you stay ahead of what's going on in the market. Because it's not just this that changes. There's changes and new things that happen every single day. And having a broker it's there to really be a platform for your success. You need to make sure that they're as adaptable as you are. So yeah, a lot of states there already use the buyer brokerage agreement. A lot of brokerages in Florida already use buyer brokerage agreements. A lot of states, it's actually required to use those before you even enter into a transaction. Places like New York City, where they don't have an MLS, it's literally like the only way you could secure a commission. But again, the great part about this is for new agents, now all of a sudden the MLS isn't the big barrier of entry that it used to be as it's been in the past. Because in the past, if you want to access the commissions, you had to join the MLS. So indirectly, I think that's probably who's going to benefit the most from this is new agents, at least here in Florida, where they're basically the MLS is the place for the money, for our money as buyers agents. That's how skewed it is towards that direction here in Florida. And so there's going to be a lot of agents that'll have to change how it is that they're doing. But like I said, if you've done a listing appointment before, or at least if you're familiar with the concept of a listing appointment, just imagine something like that geared toward the buyer. And using that again to hype up what you're going to do, how you're going to help them, you know, maybe even show them some reviews and all kinds of stuff like that you could do to help get them excited about working with you, because that's where they're going to see your value and they'll see your commission. But as long as your value is here, it's fine that your commission is here. Because as long as you're providing more value than it's costing them, people will buy, as long as you're solving whatever problem it is that they're out to solve. And that's the other great part about us. We don't get paid until the back end. We don't get paid until the closing, but what is a possibility, and this is right on the Florida Buyer Brokerage Agreement, is the possibility for retainers. Now, these retainers, at least according to the wording in the Buyer Brokerage Agreement, the Florida Realtor Buyer Brokerage Agreement, these retainers are non-refundable, but you do have the option of whether or not this will apply toward the closing cost, apply towards the actual compensation of the agent. And so you could charge retainer fees even. Now, that's pretty unheard of in the residential market in Florida right now, but could that change in the future? Absolutely. That, again, might be one of these butterfly ripple effects we see coming from this down the road. And Sue, I can assure you the realtor classes are not empty now. We've still got a lot of people coming in here, so don't worry about us. We're not going anywhere. We're more adaptable than the market, so we're here for the long run. We're here for the life of your real estate career. I can make that promise to you. So, and you know, unless they put out a rule that as a real estate agent you can't earn commission, that would be the only thing that really puts that into us as real estate agents, which that would basically be saying no more real estate agents. Everybody just figure it out on their own, which, I mean, how are we going to do that? That's why we need real estate agents. So that's not happening. There's still a need for real estate agents. We still have people signing up every single day as real estate agents. But the one thing that is going to be more important than ever is that you have the right information, you have the right guidance. And like I said, that's why we're doing this offer right now of the Ask the Instructor coaching calls. We want you on those calls every single week, so that way we can help you keep progressing your career forward. Whether it's just getting your license, just getting started with a broker, figuring out the buyer brokerage agreement, figuring out open houses, figuring out marketing strategies, figuring out how to take your business to that next level. It's a great way to join a community of like-minded entrepreneurs that are really looking to be the best that they can be. So if that sounds like you, make sure you sign up. Make sure you use promo code COACH at checkout to be able to get an extra discount, a huge discount at checkout. It'll discount your entire order, promo code COACH. You'll also be able to get, again, that 1 year free of Ask the Instructor coaching. That's only going on for a very limited time. So if you are watching the recording of this promotion probably is over. But either way, you could always sign up for Ask the Instructor at tampaschoolofrealestate.com. Thank you all for joining in today. Thank you all for your questions. These were some fantastic questions that you all had today. I want to thank you for joining live. Like I said, this is not the last of us talking about this concept here. We'll be talking about this, I would say, several more times leading up to July. Potentially more if they do end up having some changes to this, because we want to make sure you stay updated. We want to make sure you stay ahead of this. At the end of the day, and even if you didn't start with us as Tampa School of Real Estate, but especially if you've already taken courses with us, at the end of the day, we're highly invested in your success, because that has been the one thing that has helped us grow more than anything, is creating success stories. You being able to go out there and change your life through real estate. Those are the stories that ultimately get people to say, you know what, I do want to take the real estate class. I'm not going to listen to the news headlines. I'm not going to listen to all the stuff that's going on in the world. I'm going to get my real estate license. I'm going to do the things that the people around me that are telling me what to do. I'm going to do those things, and I'm going to figure this out. And as long as you're getting the right information, you're going to be okay. You want to make sure you get the right information, reach out to us. We're Florida's leader in real estate education. We have over 3,300. We might be over 3,400 five-star reviews. So check us out. These are all reviews on Google, Facebook, all over the place. We've got tons of reviews, and that's because we have so many happy students that have been able to use our classes, our courses, our books to be able to, from just advance their real estate career to completely change their life. So we want you to become our next success story. That's why we're going to be here for you. That's why we're here every single Friday, 12 noon Eastern time. We're live. If you want to talk to one of our advisors, we have an amazing team of licensed advisors from sales associates, brokers, and instructors. 813-333-2676. We've got 24/7 answering on that phone number, 813-333-2676. Our advisors are not 24 hours. They're a little bit more limited, but we do have somebody you can talk to 24 hours and get a message into our advisors if you can't get directly into them. 813-333-2676. So call in this weekend, call in tonight, call in at midnight, call in at 1 a.m. You can also text us as well. That's fine. Text us whenever, anytime, day or night, whether you're a new student, whether you're a current student. We're here for you. We want to support you. We want to get you the information you need. And like I said, that's why one final pitch for that promo, 1 year, ask the instructor for free. If you go to sign up for that a la carte right now, that's $297 for a 1-year membership. Why are we doing this? Because there's a lot of people that are scared, there's a lot of people that are confused, and there's no need for it, because if you have the right information, if you have the right guidance, you could be more successful than ever. So reach out to us any way we can help you out, 813-333-2676. That's about all the time we've got for today. So thank you for joining me for this week's episode of State of Real Estate. We'll be back next Friday. So you just got your real estate license. How can you jumpstart your real estate business? The number one thing you should do before you do anything else is post-licensing. Now look, this is already a requirement, so you're gonna have to do it anyways, but here's why you wanna do it early. The sooner you do post-licensing, the sooner you're gonna learn the real-world concepts in post-licensing that will help you create a business plan, that'll help you plan for your success in real estate. Post-licensing is all about real-world topics that are usable, that'll help you grow your real estate business. And at Tampa School of Real Estate, we have the best post-licensing courses around. Find out more about how post-licensing can help you jumpstart your real estate career. Go to postflorida.com.
Have you seen what's going on in Tampa?
If you're looking to get in on the real estate action that's going on in Tampa right now, we're who you need to talk to. We can help you get your real estate license, start your real estate career. We're here to assist you for the life of your real estate career. Give us a call. Phone number is 813-928-0106, or check us out online at tampaschool.com.
Do you want to incorporate studying for your real estate exams into your busy schedule? Now you can review the key topics you need to know to pass your class and state exams with our MP3 audio review. Simply pop in your headphones or connect to your car to reinforce crucial information while you exercise or drive. Listen to the first unit for free at mp3audioreview.com. That's mp3audioreview.com.
Hey, if you're enjoying the show today, which I'm sure you are, be sure to hit like, subscribe, post your comments, share with your friends and family. Thank you guys so much for watching.
You are watching
State of Real Estate. Every Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time. grow your real estate business. You're watching State of Real Estate. Are you studying for your Florida real estate exam? If you are, you need to check out our Pass First Try strategy. You're gonna love this. It's 4 steps that we break down the process to study for your Florida real estate exam. So you're set up to pass your Florida real estate exam because that's what you're studying for, right? To pass your exam. It's 4 steps. Number 1, you learn the information. You've got to learn this to be able to pass the exam, but it doesn't stop at learning. Step 2, you've got to reinforce the basic, simple, key concepts. As you learn this information, keep reviewing the simple things. You don't need to know everything, but you got to review these basic key concepts. Step 3, you've got to test your knowledge. The exam's going to test your knowledge, so if you don't test your knowledge in advance, you won't find out if you know what you think you know until you take the exam. And then step 4 is be confident and prepared, because even if you know this material, you need to be confident that you know the material. Check out the full strategy at passfirsttry.com. That's passfirsttry.com.
The most powerful tool to study for your real estate exam is the Question Simulator from Tampa School of Real Estate. We've used our years of experience in preparing students for the Florida real estate exam to bring you the most powerful exam study tool available. In the Question Simulator, you'll be able to go directly to a particular unit so you can focus on the sections where you need the most practice. We have also included the percentages of each unit so you know which units are the most important for your real estate exam. Every question will immediately give you detailed feedback, which is almost always more important than the question or the answer themselves. After completing all the questions in a particular unit, you can go through question by question and review any that you've gotten wrong. You could also print out a report at the end of each quiz. The Question Simulator from Tampa School of Real Estate is 100% mobile compatible, so you can practice with test questions anywhere you have your phone with you. Enroll now at questionsimulator.com and get ready to pass your exam.
Have you been wanting to get your real estate license but have been struggling to find an instructor-led course that fits your schedule? I'm proud to introduce to you our on-demand instructor-led pre-licensing course. Now you do not have to make a course schedule fit around your schedule to take an instructor-led course. This course is designed to be 100% video-based instruction. And this video-based instruction, even though this is pre-recorded video, still gives you the opportunity to engage and interact with the information to ensure your understanding of important key concepts so you're prepared for your end of course exam and state exam. My name is Jon Carissimo, and I'll be your instructor in this course. And I've been with the Tampa School of Real Estate for several years now and have helped personally thousands of people going through the licensing process. I'm excited to be your instructor throughout this course. Now, as you're going through the course, if you need help, we're just a click away. In the corner, you'll see a little yellow chat bubble where you can message our student support team, where you'll be able to get in touch with our team of licensed support professionals that have sales associate licenses, broker licenses, and instructor licenses as well. So you don't have just one instructor, you have a whole team of people from the Tampa School of Real Estate to help keep you on track, to help keep you in the important information, and to help keep you moving closer towards building your real estate career, getting it off the ground, and being able to go out there to join a broker, to activate your license, and start earning commissions. All of that is possible and so much more. But to get started, you need to enroll. So enroll today. Take advantage of the special offer we have on this on-demand pre-licensing course. You'll have instant access as soon as you enroll. You'll get an email with information to log into your course online so you get logged in and start completing your course today. You don't have to wait until the class starts. The class is already there waiting for you. So take action today and let's start building your real estate empire.